Hey everyone, and welcome to my Magicka Sorcerer PvE build for Morrowind. The goal of this build was to make a Sorcerer build that still has a fun and challenging rotation and that can still sustain itself without investing anything into resource management. We still use heavy attacks, but they're not our main spammable. Also please excuse the shitty audio quality. I already ordered a new mic, but I saw that there is great interest in this build, so I just decided to push it out now, and for the next video you can expect some better quality. I will also answer some questions that came up after I released the DPS test last week within this video. But first of all, I'd like to thank my friend Nina for perfecting this build with me. I think optimizing the rotations and everything, we both burned over 1,000 spell power potions on skeletons with a huge help. Thanks for that. So let's get started with the gear. We don't have much special stuff here that differs from other builds. You can see 5 pieces Necropotence, everything Divines of course, Max Magicka, heavy Alumbre's head, medium shoulder, you can also switch those around, should also be Divines. Why medium and heavy? Because of the Undaunted passive of course, it gives us another 6% resources for using 3 types of armor. Then we have Moonlance Jewelry, you can find that in Morph Locage, it drops at the final boss in Veteran in gold. But if you don't have a group to finish it on Veteran, then you can also get it on normal in blue, I think, quality. But try to get purple or golden. When it's a Lightning Staff, same drop basically, it drops all through the tile. I know this is really not easy to get because the drops are really shitty. If you don't have this one, then it's not a huge loss, like the only thing you lose is 129 spell damage, use a random staff then. And on the back bar, I used the Maelstrom Lightning Staff for the DPS test, but I would definitely use for trials the Sharpened Infernal Staff if you have it. If you don't have it, then it's also not that bad because you give off balance to your team. If you use the Lightning Staff with a Lightning Blockade, that is also fine. But try to get one of the 2 Maelstrom Staffs, like that is a huge DPS difference. What else to be said about gear? Alumbre's helmet drops in Cryptophares 1, the shoulder drops from Undaunted chest, I'm not sure which one now, but you can look that up. The Necropotence drops in Rivenspire, or from AP boxes, or you can buy it for gold at the guild trader, that's what I did. Moonlance Lightning Staff, you should put a weapon and spell damage enchantment on it, you can have up to 50% uptime, it's really strong. You can also use Infallible Aether instead if you have Infallible Aether Jewelry and a Lightning Staff. And you can also use the new Master Architect set that drops from Veteran Halls of Fabrications. If you have a sharpened Moonlance Fire Staff, I still think that a random Lightning Staff is just out DPSing it, because the absolute majority of Sorcerer skills are AoE, so we get 8% damage to that, and it's just a huge DPS buff, so don't worry about this one too much. Very important that you get this one, but this one, as long as you have a sharpened Lightning Staff there, it's fine. For the Mundus we go with a Thief because it's the biggest DPS increase. For the food, I go with blue health and magical food, that is just the strongest for DPS. Like we don't need any magical recovery food or something like that because our magicka is quite fine. I'm also a vampire, that is not needed but I recommend it, like it's just nice to have basically. The only downside basically is that we take a lot more fire damage, but we have stamina recovery, magical recovery, less damage taken, it's quite strong. But if you use vampire, then make sure you always have this with you, double bloody Mara. Each time you drink this, you go up by 1 vampire stage, and when you're on vampire stage 1, you don't take any additional fire damage. That is really important in VHOF, for example, on last boss, because then on execute with 25% increased fire damage, you don't have a chance basically. For skills, this is the setup that I was using in raids. It's a little bit different to what I've seen on the DPS test, but it basically works the same. I'm gonna explain that later. Both bars we have Bound Aegis of course, 8% Max Magicka, Minor, Ward and Resolve, and we get 2% spell damage on top from our Sorcerer passives. And I think also if we didn't already use the pet as well, we also get health and stamina recovery, and we get 8% max health, like that skill is insanely strong. Then we have the pet. The pet is nerfed in this patch, but it's still extremely strong. Like, it's usually my second strongest skill. You have to activate it though every 8 seconds. I'm going to show you a bit later how I do the rotation and stuff, so I'm not going to go over it now. Then here we have Harvest Magicka. I like the shield more, the 10-second shield, but with the current Magicka recovery stuff, it simply doesn't pay off to use the shield, because here you get back a lot of Magicka and basically regain the Magicka again that you needed for the cast. This one doesn't, so that's why I go with Harvest Magicka instead. Next skill is Scouting Rune, and that is probably the biggest question mark for most people. Nothing you see on a Sorcerer build every day. It's 3 from the major skill line. It deals flame damage, an initial flame damage, and another flame damage dot to all enemies that were in the area. The initial flame damage tick is AoE, first of all. That is already the first advantage over other skills like Force Pulse or Clench. So it profits from the 8% Shock Staff passive. The dot is single target, but the initial hit is already nearly as strong as Force Pulse. You can see here, like Force Pulse is a few hundred more, but it's still at the same time it's very strong because it's also flame damage, so it procs the numbers. Clench you have here on a Shock Staff is I don't like that skill at all, to be honest. I think this is much stronger. It arms after 2 seconds. That is kind of long to take, but it works really flawlessly in most trials. Like I tested it in VHOF, in VMO, and in Sanctum, and the other trials I didn't play yet in this patch. Like you see, it's quite a huge range. So if the boss or a mob stabs on the edge here, it just gets the dot and it's fine. I did not, like, in a typical fight I missed maybe like 1 rune on the boss if you move a lot, but usually if you have good tanks and stuff, then the boss should always stay in place and it's no issue at all, it looks completely fine. Now many people might say, why not use mines then? Mines is equally strong, or is even stronger. Well, first of all, you can look at the cost here. 5.5k Magicka, the rune is 2.8k Magicka, and if you compare, put it again, the mine radius here, the rune radius here, and the mine radius, you might think that it's pretty similar, but if the boss stabs on this edge, it only activates this mine, and it's only instant damage. If the boss stabs on the edge of this, it gets the whole damage. Like, there's only 2 bosses I know where mines are actually really useful, in my opinion now. Okay, that is just my opinion, so other people might disagree. That is the 3rd boss in VHOF. There it is pretty strong because it has a huge hitbox, and it's quite easy to sustain because most of the time you're just running around. And also the Rakat in VMO, but I want to see somebody sustaining this mines on Rakat in the current patch. That is not gonna work unless you run a shit ton of Magicka recovery. And if you do that, you might as well use Force Pulse or the rune. So I really like the rune. It's the strongest I've seen so far. A few more things that make the rune really nice is, first of all, let me check. The major skill passives, like those are just amazing. You see, first of all, we get a nice cost reduction on top because just because of passive, so that's also why it's so cheap. And then we get 20% increased duration. That's why the dot has an incredible length of 11.6 seconds, also really nice. We get 2% max Magicka and 2% Magicka recovery. That is really nice. Like 2% max Magicka is a big DPS increase if you have so much Magicka like we have here. And we get Empower for our next attack. So that sounds better than it is probably. Because we're light attack weaving and it only applies to 1 hit attack, so probably the next light attack is gonna get the buff, but it's still like 1 maximum 2k that you can get out of that. Still nice to have. Let's continue with the skills. We have Direct Prey here, only 6 seconds. The skill itself is not that strong, like the damage roll the skill, but it gives 55% increased damage to the target from our pet, and that is sick. because the pet is already one of our very strongest skills that we have. It's AoE also, because this only applies to one target, but that doesn't matter. Like if you have it on the boss is going to take so much damage from the pet. It's absolutely insane. The prey itself doesn't do too much damage, but it's still quite good. Like I think like up to 2k DPS overall if you keep it up very nicely. 6 seconds is very short, of course, but it's 100% worth it. Then here on the ulti on front bar we have Thunderous Rage, and probably most people will wonder why we don't use Shooting Star, 40% more Magicka. Well, simply because we have a Fire Staff on the back bar, and the Shock ulti is so much stronger anyways, and it's especially stronger on a Sorc. Like 2 seconds longer duration, that is already insane, and on top of that we get as a Sorc 5% more shock damage, and we can also use Implosion, proc Implosion from this. This is incredibly strong. And there's another reason, when you look at your Destruction Staff passive, that gives you the 8% AoE damage. It says that you have to have a Destruction Staff ability slotted. So if we would use Shooting Star here, we would lose 8% AoE damage, and that would be insane. So this is definitely 100% worth it. Keep in mind, other than other builds, we still get 2% max Magicka from the Scalding Rune here, so it doesn't really make a big difference. Backbar, found Aegis and the pet again, that is for sure, of course. Like I'm not gonna go over that again. Then we have Liquid Lightning, usually my strongest skill on skeleton passes. Insanely strong, and still AoE. It's a very small AoE though, like you have to be very precise with placing it. Then we have Blockade of Fire, very strong, especially in the raid setup. On the skeleton you will probably see that it does about the same damage as a Shock Blockade, although you lose a lot of damage on skeleton because you don't get off balance from Fire Blockade. But in a raid setup where you have Shock Blockade from healers or from other max orcs, whatever, this is just so much stronger. First of all, if you have a Magicka in the group, you get another 10% more flame damage. And if the boss is on fire, which it should always be basically when DDs are hitting it, you get another 20% damage, which is just fucking insane. Especially when you have a burning spell with decay in the group, although that doesn't happen that often anymore. Then we have Mage's Drive, and that skill I really hated in the last patch. Like I found it was incredibly weak as an execute, but in this patch it's just incredibly nice, honestly. I love it. First reason because of why it was shit in the last patch is because we were light weaving force bolts, and the damage difference was not that big. Like the damage here is a little bit better. But first of all, this skill is incredibly cheap. Like 2k Magicka is still really cheap. And on top of that, like we don't do that much damage with our spammable like we used to do on force bolts. So we do heavy attacks. But we still, like if you manage your resources well, and you can do that even on a self-buffed target skeleton fight, you can throw a lot of Mage's Wrath at the end, and it just gives you a lot of damage on top. Like I really like this skill now. And then we have Shooting Star. Basically this does not solve any big purpose other than that you have an ulti to throw if you are low on ultimate. I still like to use the Thunderous Rage most of the time. I don't really use Shooting Star that much. So if you have something like Negate or whatever, or something useful for your group that somebody has to run, this is really a flex spot. Like you can put anything here basically. You could also basically put an Overload here if you wanted to run some buffs like Crit Surge and stuff, and make this an Overload guard. That would also work. Like that is completely up to you. Then I'm also gonna go over CP. Like I don't really like to call out CP because I don't calculate. I did not calculate the CP for this build. Like maybe I'll do that in the future, but I'm quite happy with how it is. And jump points don't leave us a lot of options anyways. But people always ask for it, so I'm just gonna go over it. Most interesting is of course the blue CP. Everything else you can basically put at your... Actually you can put everything basically at your wish, like as long as you can put it into damage and as long as you don't focus one passive too much, it's fine. But let me just show where I put the points. This is also what I use on my target skeleton fight. I use 49 Elemental Expert only, because Elemental Expert is quite weak now. Like, you only get 15% at 100 points here, you get 11 points at 49 here, These numbers basically are because of the jump points. You can also look up the jump points on the internet. I think Alcast also has a list of them. That's at least where I got mine from. Then we have 44 in Elfborn. We don't have a lot of crit, but I think it's still worth putting some points in here. Then we have spell erosion. So my formula for penetration basically goes like this. I have 5k. Well, I'm rounding now, so this is not exact. I get 5k penetration from light armor passive. I get 5k penetration from the sharpen, and I get another 5k penetration from the major breach. And on top of that, if your group is good, you can also run something to apply minor breach. So then we're at 16k penetration. Boss has 18k resistance. So then I put another 2k in here. You can probably actually reduce that a little bit to get to 100% penetration. Mastered Arms, quite nice passive. Like it has, it gives on your direct damage that is new in this patch. It's also really strong. We don't have a lot of direct damage though. Like when you look at our skills, the biggest direct damage that we have is the initial hit from Sculling Rune and our light and heavy attacks, which is quite strong, all three. But it's only a small percentage of our complete DPS. Everything else is basically top. That's why we have 75 points in Traumaturge. First of all, of course, we need to have or want to have the exploited passive. Still, even with heavy attacking meta, you can still reach 70-80% off balance. So on the DPS test, I would usually start off the fight by using Curse from distance, because the pet starts charging to the skeleton as soon as you plant the Curse. But I don't find that useful in a raid, basically because the pet already starts charging when another player aggros, and therefore I don't really find that reliable. So in a raid I usually do it a little different. We have a 5-step, so we can do a fully charged heavy attack, so when the tank is starting to count down 3, 2, 1 and so on, I basically just recast the pet, take a potion and do a fire staff heavy attack, then I put Liquid Lightning, blockade, curse, pet if it's already low, then a rune, and then OP. Basically, the fixed thing about this rotation is Liquid Lightning and blockade. Like I recast it every around 9 seconds, so I still have a higher uptime in blockade, and I overcast the Liquid Lightning every little. That is really not bad. Those skills are really strong. Basically, most of the time I look on my DPS, on my buff timers. Like you can see when I see, okay, one skill is like 2 seconds away to run out, then I might just do a light attack rune. When I see one skill is like 3 seconds away, then I just do a fully charged heavy attack. I'm just gonna kill the skeleton here so I can demonstrate a bit more. Basically, we don't need to track the blockade because we always do these skills together. Very important that this does not run out. On the pet and on the curse you want it that the things run out, but immediately recast them after you're finished. Like let's see on the pet only, like when you activate the special ability of the pet you can see here, this glow, it activates every 2 seconds, look at the buff timer, and it activates the final time after 2 seconds, it reactivated instantly, it did another, basically 2 hits in a row, it's really strong. And of course on the curse, it's a little different. You can see if you don't let it run out, you don't get the damage at the end, which is really nice, like 20k when you're buffed, very nice. And of course even more in the raid setup. For the other skills, there's basically 2 ways to play this. Either you can always recast the rune and the pet together, you can try that. I don't really like that, but a friend of mine did that. But I just like to recast those 2 skills as they run out and basically have a flexible rotation. So the only thing we always redo is liquid, blockade, and the other ones always when they run out, after they run out. It's pretty simple actually. And usually every time you swap back from blockade to the main bar, you will always have time to do a fully charged heavy attack and to refresh your pet and to refresh your curse, and then you go back. So a few tricks that you should know for this build is basically for example, if you want to do a 40 charge heavy attack but cancel it with skill, you don't have to time it, like you don't have to sit there and, oh, now it's timing to do a curse or something. No, you can just hold down the heavy attack, and during the hold down at any time, press the skill, and it will go off and automatically cancel the heavy attack. Like, that is very fast. Always password cancel your blockade and your curse or whatever you use. This one can be a little sussy. The rune can be a little tricky to password like, but you only have to learn the timing on that. That's all. And for liquid lightning, it is a bit nasty. Like if you do like a skill, and then you want to do liquid lightning light attack in front. But that can be really tricky, so if you're high on lag and stuff, I would even advise you to not use a light attack, because it can happen, and I think that every sorcerer knows that probably, that then you just get either 2 liquid lightnings in a row instead of a lightning, instead of a light attack, or you just get stuck in heavy attack animation. Both should in a big DPS loss. So that really depends on your lag and your FPS if you want to do a light attack in between. So thanks a lot for watching. I did not really do this kind of video before, so that is something I have to get used to. But I really like it. Zero crafting is kind of my type of thing. I know still up to this point people ask me about my dual wield Magicka decay build that I used a few patches ago. I don't really see the point of that, but I will definitely keep an eye on Mag decay. I'm definitely gonna try a few setups that I have in mind. For now, I'm probably gonna go back to Stem Sork, which I really liked, and it seems to be quite powerful in this patch also. I have to farm a bit of gear and then I'm ready, and if I find a unique setup, something that I really like, then I'm definitely gonna share it with you on the channel. So if you liked the video, then make sure to give me a follow. Otherwise, of course, leave comments, questions and everything. Maybe I forgot something, just ask them. Usually I try to reply as fast as possible. So thanks for watching, and bye.